I would describe Black Mirror as like a box of dark chocolates. So it's an assortment. You never know quite what you're going to get from one episode to the next, but you know it's going to be dark chocolate. It's a worried show. It's a show that's worried about today.
I'm constantly seeing articles like Apple Vision Pro Black Mirror warning is unlocking a new fear in users, and inside flat from Black Mirror style building where 20,000 people live. The fact that they're using a Channel 4, now Netflix, anthology series as a descriptive term to describe anything that appears to be either dystopian or futuristic seems fairly bizarre, seeing as the series they're referencing contains a total of 27 episodes, with each one being set in a different location, time, and featuring different characters. Of course, there are overlapping themes and settings, but every story is distinct from the next and the next and the next. While being described as science fiction by IMDb and Netflix and its Wikipedia page, some stories feature very little, if not no sci-fi elements, instead using modern technology to provide a dramatic warning of the horrific things that humanity can do right now. Take the series 3-episode Shut Up and Dance, for example, where a group of people with some pretty dark secrets are blackmailed by anonymous hackers to carry out increasingly fucked up things at risks of their secrets being exposed and their lives subsequently ruined. Okay then, well, maybe the main theme of Black Mirror is to present a warning about technology, be it in the present setting or something completely distant to us. Except, not every episode presents technology as the enemy. Take the series 6 episode Lock Henry. Without spoiling this too much, the episode exists to present sensationalism of true crime stories as the enemy, with the end scene leaving the protagonist with a successful true crime documentary, winning a BAFTA award, but permanently traumatised by the real events that brought him to create the documentary in the first place. So maybe Black Mirror aims to present a dystopian society, where the characters are controlled and persecuted by either corporations or technology. But what about San Junipero, which shows the exact opposite of a dystopian world, one which makes the rare choice of having a happy ending? What I'm obviously trying to convey here is that upon watching the series, I realised there was no one theme that connected every single episode. But there has to be. There's no way all of these stories exist under one title, Black Mirror, an umbrella term that essentially means nothing. But it had to mean something. This is where my quest began. For fun, I asked ChatGPT to write an essay about Black Mirror, and the output I got wasn't too surprising. It explains that one of the recurring themes in Black Mirror is the relationship between technology and human behaviour, which is the obvious response, and seeing as ChatGPT gets all its information from loads of sources across the internet, it seems that this stance is the general consensus from both people who have and haven't watched the show. The AI does note, however, that Black Mirror varies in genre and narrative. Asking ChatGPT was a fun way to get an overall stance, but to get a better picture of what people associate with the show, I needed to ask some actual people. I initially went to X, where I asked, I'm asking this question for a potential video essay. If you were asked to think of an episode of the anthology TV series Black Mirror, what do you think of, like plot, setting, characters, etc.? I want to find out what kind of image people associate with the show. It got no replies, so I thought I'd ask a similar question in the Black Mirror subreddit, which actually garnered quite a few responses. The responses were quite similar, giving technology as the common theme, alongside perversion of ethics and justice, a future setting, characters suffering, and tragedies occurring, usually death, or just a dark nihilistic tone. Some cited some individual episodes as an example, like the entire history of You from Series 1, which presents a futuristic form of technology going horribly wrong, something which seems to fit the definition of what most people give. These responses were useful, as it was at this point where I was curious as to what Black Mirror episodes were the most Black Mirror, what was Black Mirroriness, which episodes had the most and least Black Mirroriness, and what was Black Mirroriness composed of. These responses helped, as I now had some essential components as to what made an episode of Black Mirror Black Mirror-y. So I decided to sort through all 27 stories and rate their Black Mirror-ness based on how many of the components they had. I created this list that ranked them all, with the highest having all 6 of these elements and the lowest having little or few. Firstly, I needed to clarify what must count for an episode to have each of these. For an episode to fall under the category of technology commentary, it must include technology being misused or being essentially the enemy of the episode, causing it to go down a horrible path. Perversion of justice must include a moral dilemma in how the main character must be punished, like at the end of White Christmas, with Joe being trapped inside the cookie. Future setting must be a very technologically different setting. Some episodes use futuristic technology, but are still set in a very familiar world. What I'm saying is, there's a difference between 15 Million Merits and Archangel, for example. To be given the point for characters suffering, one of the episode's main themes must include one of the main characters suffering for the duration of the story, and it must be essential to the plot. Tragedies, including death, can't just be a death included in the episode, but must affect the main character, and again, must be a significant part of the plot. Dark and nihilistic tones should be self-explanatory. I also want to mention that I won't be counting the 2018 interactive film Bandersnatch on this list, as it uses a different storytelling format and deals with drastically different concepts, and can't really be applied to the rest of the series. Anyway, the list was completed. White Christmas, Men Against Fire, and USS Callister were at the top with 5 points each, and these were the bottom 5 with only 1 point each. It's easy to see why an episode such as Demon 79 is nearer the bottom, as it tackles different themes to most instalments in the series. It features no technology or future setting, and focuses more on the crime aspect and supernatural elements rather than a dark existential view on humanity's downfall. After all, it is listed as a Red Mirror episode, and may as well not have been on the list. It's also easy to see why White Christmas is nearer the top of the list. As my personal favourite Black Mirror episode, it showcases technology as a gateway for horrible, malicious acts to take place, and faces a difficult moral dilemma at the end in terms of the ethics of punishment. The fact that no episode fits into all 6 categories shows how diverse each episode is thematically, and that perhaps Black Mirror isn't a term or label that means anything specific, but a broad uniform that each episode wears as a warning to its dark content. Maybe it's just an anthology series, and is allowed to change setting, genre, and theme. It doesn't have to fit one category, but there's still definitely something that makes every episode of Black Mirror feel so Black Mirror. It is perceived as dark, and while it doesn't always follow the convention of a technological dystopia, it certainly tries to stick to a theme, right? After all, the show's writer, Charlie Brooker, has made it clear that the title refers to the pitch black reflection presented on a device that has been turned off. A dark reflection of us, looking back at us. And when you think about it, whether set in the future, present or past, whether it has technology or us as the enemy, optimistic or pessimistic, each story in the series shows a twisted and abnormal reflection of the outside world.